Radu Ciorniciuc is film director, writer, and journalist. Known for his deep commitment to social issues and environmental conservation, Radu has gained international recognition for his poignant storytelling and fearless exploration of complex subjects. His documentary work brings to light stories that are both deeply personal and universally relevant. One of his notable documentary, Acasă, My Home, showcases his ability to dive into the lives of his subjects with empathy and respect. In this conversation, we explore the intricacies of storytelling, empathy, and the responsibilities that come with filmmaking. Today we have a very special episode because I am talking to somebody who comes from my motherland, and I will feel so much comfortable to speak with him in Romanian. But considering the audience cannot follow up, we'll keep it in English, but I'm just gonna make warnings that it feels highly uncomfortable. Nonetheless, I am really, really happy because I'm really proud where I come from, and I always make a collection of reference of the people that really make a difference. But Radu really takes it all, because in the entertainment industry, he has actually put not only talent and time, but his full heart and belief that through all his efforts, somebody will be moved to have the same incentive of making a change. So one of my most intimate questions to you, Radu, because I haven't even given you the chance to tell where you're from, where actually you're talking to us. But nonetheless, before we dive into all that, I think you have to respond, all of us. What is your drive to go into such deep subjects?
Wasn't expecting that. What's my drive? I mean, it changed during the years. I've been doing this for the last almost 15 years, I think. It was very much different 15 years ago or 10 years ago than it is now. Now I have a family of my own, and my life dynamics have changed quite dramatically. But what's um, what's left out of those crazy years from my let's say professional upbringing is this I guess curiosity and passion for understanding people, understanding myself first of all, through or by mirroring my myself and my own let's say ways of seeing the world through the others. So I guess it's people, and it's the curiosity around and the fascination for our beautiful, complicated, yet simple nature.
So the thing is, you are from Romania, but I think you are encapsulating a message that serves the world, not just the country. How have you built that sort of external empathy to or was it accidental? Because it doesn't happen just in a local level.
Well, it's something that I guess a lot of us coming from um, social and complicated, let's say, contexts, and have have inside of us because of our complicated, transitional, gray upbringing, right? You remember the Romanian, the Eastern European 90s and so on. So, um, what, like a common beautiful trait that, uh, all these people living in or going through challenging times is this feeling of collective empathy, right? I mean, you you feel for the other because you have something burning in yourself, right? Um, so I like to believe that this is something that's not only generational but cultural empathy, but it's also something that for me, when I began to understand it as let's say as a means to understanding the world or unlocking the others or unlocking things in myself so I can go deeper with my stories and my researches. I guess this is something that like I began cultivating not only through my work, um, writing or filming or whatever, but also in in my relationships and in my family. So for me, it's actually interesting because I was just the other week I was discussing with a friend um, about intelligence and how intelligence can be intellectual and can be related to how fast we connect two dots to form an idea, and how that means nothing if for me that was my argument and my conclusion to that conversation, how that doesn't mean anything if the understanding of the other doesn't come from below the head, somewhere around here, and um, if a person doesn't have empathy, then his intelligence isn't worth that much.
Sympathy for me is something that we all think we have it because we're limited to, oh, we understand. But I cannot deny that there is an inner talent of framing a sentiment in within your work with filmmaking. Because we all have, like, one of the worst things today is to say something and feel that you're misunderstood, or it takes you too long to say it, that people like lose attention as a human being. So whoever has a talent, which I think people in media that I've spoke through these episodes and now that I'm speaking with you because we're kind of highlighting the subject has, um they're taking that to very exponential levels, but I do think it's a gift nonetheless, like framing a particular feeling and a particular emotion that the other person on the other side, your work has become a medium. Wow. And that is what it happened to me when I looked at your work. So now that you're aware of all this, what's your plan in the future? Which, by the way, everything that has to do with the future, I will save it for the last of the of the conversation. But I'm really curious up front, like, now that you're so aware that you have that power, how do you plan your life accordingly to it? Do you find yourself responsible? Do you find yourself
Yeah, that's I mean, I've discovered this responsibility quite early in my career when I started publishing investigations or long forms on, especially on very sensitive topics or very vulnerable communities and so on. So I discovered that this with this power, it comes quite a lot of responsibility, especially towards the people you are exposing or you are supposed to give a voice to. So um, I think every professional um, doing this um, needs to go through a process of or understanding how to balance the power with the responsibility, and to put that power to good work and to um, so I don't know. I mean, obviously this is every time I think about a film or research, or every time I'm doing something like this, um, I'm always making sure um, that I'm morally filtering everything I put on paper, either on paper or on film. Um, and that also goes the same with how I'm building my relationships with my characters and partners and so on. So I mean, I guess that yeah, I guess I mean you I realized how much power you can have early on in my career, but you know, understanding how to use it and how to use it in good faith and how to use it to build something good is a process that I'm still going through, and it's we're not let's say um, how do you call it English word? I mean, we're always. I mean, for me, the process is to always challenge myself with all these complicated questions, and that's my process of making sure I'm not um, I'm doing things right, and I'm not exposing my work, myself, my reputation, and so on.
But
Um,
isn't that how it is actually? That like when you're doing it right, it just gets the best out of it. I
yeah, absolutely.
like you make a documentary that has an influence through its public about perception of the policies and basically making people be quite concerned about their environmental issues and social justice. Now I'm gonna like dive a little deeper and make you a question while you were doing all that. What were the most imposing challenges that you faced while trying to capture the message and film? And I'm sure there's a lot of adventures while you and your team brought that up, right?
Yeah, um, I mean the biggest and one of the first challenges that I've had with that film was transitioning from journalistic work and journalistic goals and journalistic agendas to this new medium and this new, let's say, whole new universe of storytelling instruments, let's say, you know. So I discovered dramaturgy. I discovered um, that I can, or my storytelling can be way better if I take two steps back from my, let's say, journalistic um, um, aims and right. So discovering dramaturgy for me was actually something that opened up this new world and this whole new way of looking at stories. But so this was a whole process for me. Like that film, it took us 4 years to make it. And that was also something that was very challenging for me. I was doing 6 months, 8 months, a year investigations before starting the work at this film, and I couldn't understand how someone could actually invest so much time and like years, 3, 4, 5, 6, right, in one project. But so that was also quite challenging to manage, but it also brought me this very beautiful gift of understanding that actually, you know, spending so much time on a project is a privilege that you know, most of us don't have. But and it comes. I mean, the true privilege is actually that you know, your story has enough time to mature itself, but you also have a lot of time to mature with the story. And something that 4 years ago looked you know, looked in one way after 4 years of working and developing it obviously gives a lot more to the story and ultimately to the audience. Um, I guess, I mean, that was, yeah, this was the biggest, let's say, challenge for me to learn how to I mean, The biggest challenge was that I was having a story that was very easily, let's say, it had a lot, it has a lot of like exotic elements to it, and it would have been very easy to be framed in a very, let's say, superficial way by the, mainstream media and social media and so on, and I guess in many ways, I was forced not to release the story until I was completely sure that the story is, let's say, um, it's proved, and my characters are as protected as possible, and their story as consolidated in its context, in order for it not to be interpreted in a malicious way, let's say. So
Interesting, because I would hear I've heard the expression of protecting the quality of the film by making sure the actors are doing their job. But in this case, you are trying to make sure they're protected. Like, it's because you put upfront messages that was not from a common interest, or you were upsetting, or why would you feel that you have to protect your actors?
well, and my characters, like we're working with real life people, so. It was also something related with the context and to that 2015, 16 when I started this research. There was this whole wave of like xenophobic wave against the Romanians, against Roma living in the western part of Europe, and like we've had huge political campaigns based on these on targeting these like Romanian communities abroad and Roma communities abroad. We've had Brexit back then, and I'm not sure if you remember, but the whole Brexit campaign was like quite anti-immigrant, anti-Eastern European, and so on. So um, and I mean, I used to work and live in London a few years before starting working on this film. So I was quite aware of my power, and I was quite aware of my connections to the British media, which was back then my main, let's say, um, uh, employer, like employing country. I was used to work with Channel 4 News, with Al Jazeera, with The Guardian, and so on. So at first, I actually wanted to do like a reportage, like a video reportage for one of these big medias in the UK. So, and I knew what would have happened if I put these kids half naked, like jungle book looking in the middle of a European capital, if I put them out there and to that machine that was feeding on Romanians and Romas for some years now. So um, I mean, why would anyone want to do that? Like willingly? Why would you want to feed something like that? So as
I see.
time went by, and I started to care about these kids, so we developed quite a lot of other little projects around this film. It became quite big at one point. We had like a quite a massive social project. We've had like an editorial project. We released a book before finishing the film, and we managed to secure funds for the kids to go to school for the next 10 years, and we bought them a house, and then we partnered up with some other really nice NGOs who are helping to this day, are helping this family to this day. So I don't know, like it turned into something um, quite different from what I was planning in the beginning, and I guess a lot of these changes were, um, let's say, yeah, went but started from this point where we wanted to have these kids safe and exposed in a way that would be beneficial to both them and the public.
It's it's interesting because right now is when you get so engaged with with the message that you want to um, frame through your work, then protecting yourself from becoming the message because you were too close. I think like that's where, the barriers happen. And one of the things I would say is it everybody who has been like apparently they have a whole team of psychological logistics and coaching and whatever to know what's your place and what you're talking about. And like, by instance, there is this lady in Spain that she used to do like a lot of journalism by 21 days full in drugs, 21 days on alcohol, 21 days without food, 21 days, and she will like impose at herself. But her team was psychologists, so she wouldn't go nuts after like all that experience. It was huge.
Mm.
And one of the things is like awareness. I think it's a brilliant medium because awareness, it's a gift. And I think like that's one of the beautiful things about the internet. Like you get to see and feel and going from knowing how it feels being rich from how it feels being really poor. What's your hope that in these times of sensationalism that people look for entertainment content, they will wanna watch something that's gonna make them feel so close to the reality of dramatic experience? Who's that audience when you build that? Or it's just your hope that people will actually really care?
For my work, you mean?
Yes, in general, like, there's always an audience, and right now, audiences, I mean, I'm quite upset. I don't consume those things. I like things that move me and that like brings me awareness because it
Mm.
also compensates the gratefulness that I have for everything in my life and creates a balance on what are the things that are really to be concerned about and what aren't. But nonetheless, you might think of an audience. So when you compete with like uh spam attention for streaming platforms that will put up their content such, I don't know, like cheesy
No, I totally
romance,
understand. I totally
like how
understand. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So what's your hope in your work, right? Like because in the end, you know that somebody out there is gonna play it and feels the way that you expect them to.
My hope is that all these platforms supporting films, like independent films, especially like the ones that I'm doing, um, they'll still exist, and they're still that's because they are becoming the last bastion against this new way of consuming stories, right? And I mean, it's very hard for me to be against technology and the
Absolutely not.
evolution
Yeah, that wasn't even
of
like,
ways of no it's
yeah.
and it's especially because we come from a country that didn't have any freedom of speech or freedom of movement and so on. So for I think there's something brilliant in this in this new reality that we're living, that people actually have information in their pocket or a way to express their feeling in their pocket, a film camera, a tape recorder, whatever, like a photo camera, right? It's a question of how we don't let that control our brains and ruin our lives instead of making it better, right? And I guess this is where some of us come, I guess, come to counterbalance this,
Mm-hmm.
this very fugitive and very very thin and superficial way of consuming stories, I guess, or listening to
Yes, I
stories.
understand. Yeah. I mean, you want to be numbed, entertained, or you want to be moved and turn into an actionable tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? That's what I think. That's why for me, when in you made the documentary Acasă, My Home, which not only tells stories but also it's an advocate for change. What do you believe is the most critical element for you in transforming entertainment awareness into those people generating an actionable change?
Um,
Or if there is any.
meeting with the meeting with the audience and having people in one room watching something and discussing about it after it creating and recreating this feeling of community and this feeling of a collective discovery and because this is what's happening right in the face of this, you know, like new technology, new media, and so on. Like people have only have the impression that are connected, but the result is that we've never been more lonely, I guess, right? So I guess this kind of work, this kind of, you know, like filmmaking and this kind of storytelling also has the power to bring people together. Not only, you know, like by, you know, like not only, you know, by connecting people, you know, through the message or through the story itself, but bringing people physically together. And I think when I was referring to the platforms like a few minutes ago, these are the kinds of platforms that I hope they'll be alive in because that's that's the true opposition to what's happening right now. You know, like it's people actually meeting and discussing and having thought-provoking things to watch and to discuss and to debate and so on. So as long as we have that, yeah, as long as we have that, we're still good. And yeah.
So that's one of the things, like pure math sometimes. The internet has brought a lot of education that not necessarily relies on diplomas. Right now, if you have access to information, therefore you're expected to know the minimum. Now, with that, I think having few people that decide what gets to go on streaming or not,
Mm,
it's not bad, but it's limiting the possibilities that a very uh, hungry person gets to know. And
mm,
then you have the other extreme, which YouTube is like damn too crowded. Now, with all those together, I think like the balance is who like the vessel of message has happened through network effects. Like people when they watch something, they share. Mostly the new generations.
mm,
You don't see them consuming something without ever sharing with their whole friends and community what they have just done, bought, you know.
mm,
And I found that really refreshing because it organizes the information. All you need to do is to tap into those network effects to let the message flow
mm,
versus relying on algorithms that for
mm,
marketing purposes will allocate some content.
mm,
And that's kind of like the debate that we have internally at Olyn. And I think that we want to accelerate what already filmmakers were doing in parallel. Like I want to tap into my audiences and I want to see like their reactions, this and that. But in the end, there's like this wall that depends of 3, 4 guys from string companies if they want to bring you to the big public or not. Where
mm,
the big public is always there. You just have to knock the doors to an influencer and say, "Hey, do you mind speaking about this?" And
mm,
he's like, "Hell yeah!" And that's where the magic, and that's why I feel so positive about the future because I think things will turn around, and that's why I believe that with your work, having touched so many ethical complexities, where you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because you bring a lot of like controversial subjects in one place. I think that creates open-mindedness. Mm. So in this case, you talk about the Roms and all that, and sometimes we do not agree with certain cultures or ways of doing, but you're judging somebody who's their life generation identity,
mm,
and making them feel wrong about it. Is how much is it like we want all to be the same, or we can respect certain like traditions. So how do you feel like with that? Do you think like people with different ethical approaches behave differently towards the environment around them? Like, are they more sustainable and we don't see it? Are they less consumers? Or How do you, because that one of the biggest subjects were environmentalist issues,
Mm.
environmental issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So like
Like the ethical, do you think like the ethnicity of people makes
mm.
them more drawn towards sustainability or the others, despite the fanciness of the word?
I mean, what is sustainability to someone who doesn't have his basic needs covered, right? Like eating potatoes doesn't every day doesn't necessarily make a poor person a vegan, right? It makes him someone who is trying to survive with whatever means he has or she has around him, right? I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, sustainable would be to don't like to ethically integrate all these people living in uh, appalling conditions and bring them closer to us without changing their identities and changing who they are, and like being more environmental environmentally aware, I guess, or sensitive or sustainable. um, I mean, we still have a long way to go. I mean, currently our systems, our food system, for example, is built on massive, um, um, massively intensive, let's say, mega factories, giga factories, and so that we can actually feed people and not charge a fortune for I don't know. It's a long way. I've been doing environmental investigations for most of my professional life, and I've seen quite a few of these places, especially food and food systems.
Yeah,
And
I'm taking notes as you speak because organizing everything you're saying,
yeah, no worries. Yeah,
like
sure.
no, it's totally interesting because you know there's an intellectual legacy you want to leave through your films. So I think because I was really I found like a lot of effort was put behind Acasă, my home. How do you think your work, or how do you expect your work to be remembered in time?
Well, I always think when I'm starting a story and when I'm developing a story and finding or finding or trying to find the new angles or interesting angles to it, was I'm always thinking of like how would this story be relevant 20 years from now? How would this story teach someone something 20 years from now, someone who's so far away and disconnected from the context that we're living in right now? How do I depolitize? How do I make how do I tell the story without focusing on present context or like political, everything is political, right? Like nowadays. So I don't mind about that too much. I don't think about that too much. I only think about like, okay, so if I myself watch a story like this in 30 years, what is it that is gonna be um, truthful to me? What is it? What's how is it going to speak to me then? So um, it's my process is always like boiling it down until I strip uh, my story of any social or contextual, let's say, contextual meaning and getting to the bottom of the humanity of the story of the people I'm working on and so on. This is why I'm fascinated on about relationships and this is my has been my main focus in the last 10 years with my last films as well. It's, human relationships, and that's something that like a relationship between um, um, an older son and an older son who's about to um, enter his in his new life is going to be always going to be interesting relationship with his father, for example, or younger brothers or sisters or mother or whatever, right? This is also this because there will be a truth there that will speak with with everyone, and will speak with everyone outside of any context, interesting or not context. Or so yeah, it's the humanity of stories that makes them universal and makes them important and timeless.
Yes, timeless. I think this is a good way of navigating towards, my last questions, because the time is precious, and I know like we're running out of time already from where we are. But who's a Radu 10 years from now?
Hopefully, healthy, proud father and husband as well, with more hobbies than I have right now. Um, Probably doing fiction work, developing fiction work, and documentary, something small on the side, just to keep my blood pumping and my heart beating. So that's, I guess that's how I see myself from 10 years from now.
I love the fact that you said fiction, because that's exactly how I wanted you to respond the next question, in a very fictional way, which is, we're all familiar with how the world will look like in 10 years from now if we do things bad. We've seen a lot of like terror apocalyptic movies. But from the work that you've been doing and everything, I have a very wrapping up important question for you, which is, if in all big hopes, everybody on this planet, scientifically speaking, live their best, hope the best, do their best and everything, how would the world look like 10 years from now if, from your eyes, people will do what they're supposed to be doing?
I mean, that's a really complicated question. Is
Yeah, I didn't say it's easy.
what does
You just have to simply scientifically describe it as, what's your
I,
ideal world 10 years from
I
now?
would start like my ideal world 10 years from now. Yeah, that's free education, um, free opportunities or equal opportunities, like real opportunities to everyone. Um, I'd start with that, I guess, because those would be the pillars of making the world better, if we start doing it today, right? Um, Other than this, I wouldn't know. Like education, I guess it's something that would um, create enough awareness to solve a lot of the issues that we have now,
Mm,
um, and obviously, right, political and financial will. That's also something that would help enforce um, education, I guess. I don't know. It's a hard
totally.
question, and it totally depends on who you're. Like, if it's really subjective, that would be my answer. But um, I'm sure this answer would sound very much differently from another person with dif different political views or different life experiences and right.
Yeah. But like,
What is yeah.
believe it or not, uh, everybody ends up in the same way of looking at things, which is, to hope for a better future, it has to go to the big roots of, are people educated and do they have their basics? And if
Yeah.
they're not, then how you can think that they can have a better chances to think about something better than just
Mm,
caring about the lack of things that they don't even have, to
mm,
put them in a situation for thinking better. So that's why, like, do not think like others will respond different or anything. Everybody comes to the same consensus that the lack of things definitely makes people think different,
mm,
and that's why I believe entertainment has a huge power on addressing those things, because only if we can dream or feel close or feel that it already happened to you, um, of like seeing how others live their life, like that brings you closer to your ideals that
mm,
you were so unfamiliar about before. And that's why I think like there's a part in fiction, in science fiction, because can navigate that message. I mean, how you can become something that you don't even know who that person would be like. So
Mm,
imagination, it's a big thing.
absolutely.
And for good and for bad, for empathy and for creation, for conversations and navigating the space. Like we enlarge our spaces through getting through watching the world in other lenses. So
Yes.
Radu, it's been really, really amazing to talk to you. I can sense that
Same here.
there is a lot of deepness and a
Hmm.
lot of like concern, and I think you are very straightforward what you stand for, not only with your tone but also by the way you describe things. And that for me is what, and everybody who I've been speaking with, and also for the audience on the podcast, that appreciates the most, that everybody who has been given the talent, actually they really mean their work, and they're doing it with full heart, and not only full heart but full wisdom. And you've shared that
Thank you.
throughout this conversation, so I'm grateful for your time.
Thank you.
And
You've been generous as well. I loved your questions, and um, I wasn't expecting to be so provoked, let's say, in these 45 minutes. So,
yes,
so I'm grateful for that. Yes.
nonetheless, I think like that was my way to like express how much I liked your work and how
Thank
much I
you.
think it's gonna have a big impact. And sharing your success, looking forward for some fiction, and please thought provoke us for more. And if the chance presents itself again, I would love to continue this conversation one way or another for this channel. But
With pleasure.
that was a good start.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna.